was a time when we didn't have things the way we have it now. I've seen people in this day and time, I mean, when you were really going through, when we were in slavery, we knew God. We prayed. We went to church. It was not an option. But it's amazing now that we've been to school and got 15 cents in the bank. But in other words, God, He promises to bless those who will follow Him, but eventually man will make prosperity his religion and abandon God. Because then we feel as though we can provide for ourselves and no longer need God to provide for you. But let me just tell you this, even when you have money, you need God to make your marriage work. You need God to keep your children from acting like a fool. You need Him to keep the systems of your body still functioning and your mind in a way where you're not dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's and arthritic things are taking over your body, and you're dealing with all kinds of digestive disorder, and you're not being able to sleep at night. You still need God. Don't ever get so high that you think that you won't ever need the living God. I mean, we have to ask ourselves this question: are we working to live, or are we living to work? Just so that we can be in fine homes and working 2 jobs and trying to send our child to a private school and all of this kind of stuff, and getting all of this highfalutin stuff, eating food we can barely pronounce and all of this, and forget to bow our heads and thank God, acting as though we are ashamed to give thanks to the one that has blessed us with provisions to be able to eat. Don't ever forget the Lord. I want you to take a look at this little video clip. Think about how you treat your work.
I read a study yesterday. It said that last year, more than half of us actually chose not to take our full vacations from our jobs. Question: don't you think it's crazy that so many of us go into work even when we don't need to be there? Times we could be on the beach buried in sand or traveling the earth. We spend it in the office, traveling from desk to desk, buried in paperwork. See, in this chaotic world, everything goes so fast. We're so busy, seems like everyone's middle name is multitask. But now before you go and act all holier than thou, how many extra tabs do you have open on your computer right now? See, we all need time to get away from the race, for our family, friends, for the sake of our mental state. Time to rewind, recharge, and reconnect. Not reporting to the office on emails that should be on redirect. Because life, ladies and gentlemen, is all about moments. No one in history has ever been able to hold on to one. Not a single soul. And you never get them back. See? There one goes. No do-over, no rewind, no DVD root menu to skip to a previous scene. Ask yourself, how many trips did you almost take? How many sights have you almost seen? How many moments have you lost thinking about the next one, thinking that once you get this or get there, maybe that will be the best one? Life has taught me that all we will ever have is now. But let me be perfectly clear. I'm not saying to quit your job, even though I know you deserve a 6-month vacation twice a year. But how about small steps, short trips, with long dances, no distractions, spend time with family instead of coworkers, meditation instead of aggravation, replace our screensavers with sunrises, palm pilots with palm trees, jam copy machines with... Man, I really hate jam copy machines. The most precious thing we have in life are moments. Let's make the most of them before they disappear. Let's see the world while we still can, and cherish those while they're still here. Because when our lives are almost over, it won't matter how much money we made, or hours we worked, or times we got employee of the month. What we will look back gone are the memories we made, the hours we spent with those we loved, and were we father of the month, mother of the year, friend of a lifetime? Holidays should be a time where we go away and come together. From now on, let's take our whole vacation and be fully present, creating memories that will last forever.
Are you working to live or living to work? The great paradox of life is that the things that initially made you successful are rarely the things that keep you successful. It's amazing. And I want you to see here God's attempt to help us to avoid this. God is omniscient. He knows all things from the beginning. So he saw where we were going, and he did his best to help us to avoid it. Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 11 through 14, notice. But this is the time to be careful. Beware that in your plenty you do not forget the Lord your God and disobey his commands, regulations, and decrees that I am giving you today. For when you have become full and prosperous and have built fine homes to live in, and when your flocks and herds have become very large and your silver and gold have multiplied, you got long money, along with everything else, be careful. Do not become proud at this time and forget the Lord your God, who rescued you from the slavery in the land of Egypt. And I want you to hear this further warning, verse 15 through 19. Do not forget that he led you through the great and terrible wilderness with its poisonous snakes and scorpions, where it was so hot and dry. He gave you water from the rock. He fed you with manna in the wilderness, a food unknown to your ancestors. He did this to humble you and test you for your own good. He did all this so you would never say to yourself, I have achieved this wealth with my own strength and energy. Remember the Lord your God. He is the one who gives you power to be successful in order to fulfill the covenant he confirmed to your ancestors with an oath. But I assure you of this, if you ever forget the Lord your God and follow other gods, worshiping and bowing down to them, you will certainly be destroyed. God warned us that if you make material things your God, you will certainly be destroyed. If your faith is in your 401k and in your health package benefits, instead of looking to God as your healer. And let me just say this. This is why Jesus is asking, when the Son of Man shall come, will he really find faith on the earth? You remember that the generation of the Israelites who came into the promised land, they experienced the most spectacular miracles that the world has ever seen. But then we notice in Judges chapter 2 and verse 10, he says, after that whole generation had been gathered to their fathers, after that whole generation died, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. It didn't take 3 generations, one generation. In one generation. Listen, we are one generation away from people rising up and not knowing God. One generation away. When we refuse to replenish in our own sons and daughters. That's why we have to remind them what the Lord has done for us. You better go back and tell them before you had it like you got it now. That listen, we haven't always had it like this. There were times that we were struggling. We didn't know which way to go. We were trusting God. You better let your children know the same way that I had to depend on God. You're going to go through some hardships in life, and you're going to have to trust him and depend upon him. And he'll lead you and guide you. You're going to get out of school and you're not going to know what to do. You're going to get in school and not know which major to take. And then you're going to get out with a major and start working in an area that you didn't even major in. You're going to need God. The book of Judges records that period as the lowest point in Israel's history. And it shows us that it doesn't take much to destroy the faith of a nation. And when you think about it, it only took Israel one generation of neglecting God's word for them to forget him. In one generation, another generation grew up that didn't know God and didn't know the things that he did for their parents. And with individuals, it happens even faster. You stop praying for a day or two and you'll miss it, but you stop praying for a month, stop doing it for a month, for 6 months, you're backslidden. You can still be going to church and still be going through the motions, but when the Son of Man returns, will he really find faith on the earth? And sometimes that we might consider that we have matured and don't need that as much, because babies really depend on their parent. We ought never get so mature that we ever become independent of God. You have to always depend upon him. And I want you to realize the Apostle Paul reminded us in Romans chapter 15 and verse 4 that everything that was written in the past was written to teach us. It was written to teach us. It was written for our example. The greatest purpose of history is as a teacher. But what good is it to read history if you don't learn its lesson? In all likelihood, we are entering a time when the world that we grew up in will be no more. Our security will be shaken. Our freedoms will be restricted. And our faith will be tested. And some of us will find ourselves back at square one after it's too late to try to start over. And so I want to remind you that now is the time to begin exercising our faith. Now is the time to begin exercising our faith. Whatever you exercise grows. You can only build what you are willing to exercise. You can only build what you're willing to exercise. And my question to you is, when was the last time that you shared the good news of Jesus Christ with someone? When? When was the last time that you shared the good news of Jesus Christ with anybody? When was the last time that you told them that he died for them, and he could forgive their sin, that he could help redeem them, restore them? According to the Barna Group, although 100% of evangelicals believe that they have a personal responsibility to evangelize, a full 31% admitted to not having done so in the past 12 months. Now, everybody believes that evangelism is a biblical thing, but not everybody's evangelizing. Our world would be a different place, our communities would be different, our work environments would be different if we had Christians who have faith, exercising their faith and sharing their faith where they are, where they live in the real world. And to find out why evangelism is declining, Tom Rainer, he conducted an unscientific Twitter poll with the question, why do you think that many churches aren't as evangelistic as they once were? Why? Why do you think that many churches aren't as evangelistic as they once were? I want to give you the top 5 reasons that they came up with. Number 1, they said Christians have no sense of urgency to reach lost people. They have no sense of urgency to reach lost people, and people are dying every day. Number 2, many Christians and church members do not befriend and spend time with lost persons. You ought to have somebody in your life who's not saved and not be afraid that you're going to backslide. I mean, sleeping in the garage does not make you an automobile. Number 3, many Christians and church members are lazy and apathetic. That's why they don't evangelize. Number 4, we are more known for what we are against than what we are for. And number 5, the churches too often are using ineffective evangelistic strategies. When the Son of Man shall return, will he find faith on the earth? Barna found that the practice of evangelism is falling among self-identified, born-again baby boomers and baby busters. But there was some good news that they discovered, that evangelism is actually growing among a group that you might not expect. Born-again millennials. These are our younger folks. Some 65% of millennials shared the gospel in 2013, compared to 56% in 2010. Now that's a good trend. I am so proud of our millennials for sharing Jesus. My goodness. But of course, evangelism is not the ultimate goal. Discipleship is. Jesus' great command was to go and make disciples of the nations. Go out into all of the world to make disciples of the nation. And so, Jesus, when the Son of Man comes again, will he really find faith? Because faith is something. Faith believes something. Faith sees something. Faith says something. Faith does something. Faith moves something. Faith develops something. Faith builds something. Faith obeys something. Faith supports something. Faith shares something. You see, faith is both belief and behavior. Faith is both belief and behavior, because right believing produces right behavior. Right believing produces right behavior. And I want you to think about the connection between what you believe as your faith and what you do as your behavior. Because you don't change the future with hope, you change the future with your behavior. If you're going to change anything, you've got to do something differently. It is what you do differently that produces results in your life. You got to be willing to work this thing as though it is all up to you and pray as though it is all up to God. When you have faith, you also have corresponding works that will prove your faith. And when you realize that God has already sent everything that you need right within the reach of where you are, but until you bust a move and start working as though it is all up to you and praying as though it is all up to God, nothing in your life will change. And so the question is, when the Son of Man comes, will he truly find faith in you? Will he really find faith in you? And I want you to ask yourself a few questions. Ask yourself, what do I have faith that God will do in my life or in my family this year? What do I have faith that God will do in my life or my family this year? And remember that God's love for you is greater than your faith in him. I want you to ask yourself, do I trust God? Do I trust God? And then think about it. What evidence do you have that you trust him? Ask yourself the question, does God trust me? Can God trust you with money? Can he trust you with a business? Can he trust you with a spouse? Can he trust you with children? Can he trust you with influence? Does God trust you? We often speak of trusting God, but can God trust you with trouble? Can he trust you with glory? Then ask yourself this question, what reason have I given God to trust me? What reasons have I given God to trust me? Then ask yourself this question, if my actions reflect my belief, what do my beliefs say about me? If my actions reflect my belief, what do my beliefs say about me? And then ask yourself this question, what does the company I keep say about me? Because when you want a friend, don't merely look for personality traits, look for character traits. Look for character. And I want you to understand this very, very clearly, that if the enemy cannot defeat you directly, he will attempt to defeat somebody close to you. and then pollute your world. If he can't get you directly, he'll go after your spouse. If he can't get you, he'll go after your son. He'll go after your daughter. He'll go after your best friend. He'll go after somebody who's in your inner circle. But may I remind you of this. Something that Craig Groeschel said, that it's the thing that no one sees that produces the results that everybody wants. It's the things that no one sees that produces the results that everybody wants. When the Son of Man shall come, will he really find faith on the earth? If he were to come and look at your life, would he call that faith? This is a message of introspection. You to take a look within. When the Son of Man shall come, will he find faith on the earth? Will he find faith on the earth? The great Messiah. We have the greatest God of the universe. He is the King of kings and the Lord of lords. It is absolutely amazing who he is and what he means to us. He had no storehouses, yet they called him the bread of life. He had no servants, and yet they called him master. He had no degrees, and yet they called him teacher. He had no armies, and yet the kings of the world feared him. He committed no crime, and yet they crucified him. He had no place to lay his head, and yet he was the master of everything. When the Son of Man returns, will he find faith on the earth? This same Jesus that went up is coming back again in like manner. He's coming back and he's checking things out. And let me just tell you, I believe that he comes back many times. Whenever you get in trouble, he's there. He's checking you out. When he comes, will he find faith on the earth? When you get in trouble and Jesus is standing right there with you, because he said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you, will he find faith? Or will he find you so broken down that you've thrown your hands up and you're living like everybody else in the world, and he can't even distinguish you from the world? When the Son of Man returns, will he find faith? Or will he find you giving praise unto his name, sharing his story, and living to the glory of God? Won't you open your hearts, receive this presentation of Hosanna.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.